Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle May Curry, and I am the curator on staff at the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. And you have joined us for the third and final workshop session for the FY26 Art Bank program. Today, we're going to be together for about an hour and a half, and we're going to be going over all things Art Bank. You can see here, we'll start with an overview of the program and its goals. We'll go through eligibility for both applicants and artwork. We'll go through evaluation criteria, how your work will be evaluated by a jury committee. And then we'll go through all of the many documents that you'll submit with your application, as well as tips for preparing all of those documents and preparing your package for submission. Then I'll switch over to a recording of our registrar, Ron Humbretson, walking you through how to submit your application in the portal. He'll just go through step by step what buttons to press. Our application portal can sometimes be a little tricky to navigate, and we recognize that and just want to help you get to the finish line with no bumps and bruises in the process. And then we have a few different pieces of additional support for you on our YouTube channel and our workshop series. So just wanted to flag that, and we'll finish up by telling you about all the other grant opportunities that we have at CAH. Sound good? Okay. So first, I will play a welcome message from our director, Aaron Myers. And please tell me if you can't hear the audio. I'm about to press play.
Oh, the audio's not working, Michelle?
No audio.
We can't.
Audio's not working? Okay, one sec. I'll stop sharing and then I will share again and make sure that I'm sharing my sound. Okay.
Hello and welcome. I'm Aaron Myers, and I'm the Executive Director for the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. We're excited to have you here to support you in the applications process related to our fiscal year 2026 grant programs. As a designated state art agency for the District of Columbia, our mission is to support and uplift the artists, the humanities, professionals, and creative organizations, and the work you all do in all 8 wards, 52 weeks out of the year. These workshops and live chats are designed to help you navigate the grant process, provide clarity on our requests for applications, or RFAs as you know them, and ensure you have the support you need to submit a competitive application. We're here to answer your questions and share guidance. So your journey, whether it's your first time or returning applicant, is for you to be successful. So thank you for joining us, and once again, welcome.
Okay, so that's our executive director, Aaron Myers. And if you see him around town, he's a great person to chat with. He's such a supporter of the arts. And I'm glad he was able to provide us some words of welcome today. So before we dive in to an overview of the program, I just wanted to flag 2 resources for you. One is our Art Bank e-museum, which is our digital platform for our Art Bank collection. It's where you can see all 3,000 artworks in our collection and see the public art collection as well as those in our Wilson Building collection. And as we're talking, it's a great place to sort of poke around to see what work is already there and where your work might fit into our collection. We also have a YouTube channel where all of our workshops exist, as well as some additional workshops that we've hosted in the past that can help applicants prepare their applications from a range of different perspectives. So just flagging those 2. Okay, so our Art Bank collection is a very special civic art collection, public art collection. The DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities has been collecting fine art by metropolitan artists since 1986. And again, we have a little bit over 3,000 works in the collection. We use this collection as a loan program. And our assistant registrar who's on the call, Louisa Hammond, is also going to walk us through how the loan program works in just a second. But this loan program allows artwork to be placed in government buildings across the District of Columbia and is placed in public areas in those government buildings. Our artists can apply to be a part of the Art Bank collection via this grant line, and it's an annual grant line. And the grant award amount is up to $15,000 for individuals, which is new as of this year, and up to $25,000 for organizations. These grant awards have been increased this year because we want to acknowledge how the price of artwork is changing currently. We also haven't changed these numbers in quite some time, and so we wanted to reflect the changing art market. We are also only acquiring one artwork per artist this year. Previously, we sometimes acquired more than one piece by an artist, usually no more than two pieces in the last few years. So this tracks so that no one piece of artwork in your application should exceed $15,000 in price. But you can price it however you see fit up to that price point. There's a few reasons why this art bank collection exists beyond just wanting to build a beautiful collection for the district. We want to be able to reflect DC's art history. We are documenters of DC art, and our collection is aiming to be comprehensive of DC's rich, diverse artistic landscape. We also want to be able to support artists through creating a moment of professional development. We recognize that it's a big deal to be acquired into a permanent collection. We also are really proud that we are sometimes a first stop in an artist's career in being collected into a permanent collection. Our first acquisition into the art bank was a piece by Sam Gilliam. So it's a fun fact from us. The third reason is that we want to create a collection that creates an aesthetic experience for DC government employees and visitors of government buildings. There's a range of reasons why you might be moving through a government building. You are likely receiving services from that government building if you were in there. And there's so many different types of things that the DC government does, from supporting parks and recreation, to supporting children and family, to supporting water and transportation. And our art bank collection tries to reflect the range of services that the DC government provides and the types of experiences that individuals employed in that space and receiving services in those spaces might be experiencing. Okay, I'm going to pass the baton to Louisa, and I apologize, I didn't let Louisa introduce herself, so I hope she does that now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Louisa Hammond. I'm the assistant registrar for the collection. So what that means is once the works that you submit for the grant and we acquire them, I kind of take over with Ron, our registrar, to fully catalog and then see the life of these artworks beyond once they come into the DC Commission. So as
Thank
Michelle
you
said,
very much.
the goal
You're
of this
welcome.
program is to have these works, and the main purpose is the loan program that we have, where we loan the artwork to these district agencies. So the first step when the artwork comes in is we fully catalog it. You know, we have a full record for each work, describing the work and giving it, you know, a session number, so it's part of the permanent collection, and you know, describing what it is for our records. And we have our database system, the museum system, which a lot of museums use, and then that feeds that information to the e-museum, so it gets publicly accessible online. The next step is that we work on framing all the artwork. So all artwork that comes in will be framed or reframed. So even if you submit a piece that's already framed for the DC Art Now exhibition, the framing, if you so choose to and ask for it to be returned, it will be returned to you because we will frame it kind of in a very standard practice. Since this is a very big collection and these works are all just, they're all very different, they're all displayed together, we have a very kind of simple standard framing practice so that the works have some kind of unity and also to protect them. So we want to make sure that we're when we're installing these works, they're installed in places that people might not traditionally know how to be around art. So we want to make sure that, if there's kids that see it and run up and touch it, they're not touching your artwork, they're touching, we have plexi that's UV filtering to ensure the longevity of these works, because that's what we want. So we have a standard framing practice, like I said. Usually we are working with white frames with like archival mounting materials and backing, the OP3 UV filtering plexiglass. So that's kind of standard for flat work, framed paintings, things like that. We also have a standard for works that don't fit in a traditional frame. So artwork that can't fit within a standard frame will have kind of be mounted in the shadow box frame with a plexiglass cover, again, that UV filtering. And I will have an example of some photos you'll see in the next slide to see what that looks like. And then additionally, sculptures will also be displayed on custom pedestals with that same plexiglass covering, just to ensure that they are safe wherever we install them. Then we also have obviously some works in storage. So of our collection of almost 3,000 works, almost, I think it's about 92% of it is actually on display at all times, rotating out throughout the agencies. But there is some amount that has to be in storage, between installs and as it rotates through. So our artwork is stored. We have two storages, one in our office and then an offsite storage, but it's all temperature and climate controlled storage vault up to all the standards of museum practices as well. And then finally, the other thing that we oversee that sometimes needs to be done is conservation. So some of these works, going back to the collection 1986, some work needs conservation sometimes, just because of the inherent nature of artwork and how it deteriorates. Or, if something happens, something falls off the wall and the frame breaks, we need to get it some kind of conservation. So we try to do regular conservation efforts and condition assessments of our whole collection. So regular inspection, monitoring for signs of damage, things that are light sensitive, seeing where they're installed and things like that. So that's just kind of an overview of what Ron and I do, and just so you know what happens to the artwork. And then in the next slide, we'll look at then the loan program more in depth. So as Michelle said, this functions mostly as a loan program, which is really wonderful. We have the privilege of putting this artwork in district, agency, council offices. So that is a wide range of offices, from the council members in the Wilson building to the DMV locations or Office of Planning to the Deputy Mayor of Education. So any district agency we give them this privilege of having artwork for their offices. So the way that works is they choose to participate and reach out to us and say, we're looking for art. Oftentimes this is happening because they're moving buildings, or sometimes they've had art in their offices for a while and it's a whole new staff and they say, we don't know where this art came from, but we heard we can get some new ones and change it out, something fresh. Or just looking to expand. So they reach out to us and we invite them to come over to our art bank storage to see what is available, the available works. So these offices are, places where district employees are worked, but as Michelle said, DC residents are also coming to receive services. So there is a lot of people coming and seeing this artwork on a daily basis. So oftentimes we get different thematic requests, and I already saw that there was a question in the chat about, themes. So this is where it really is a wide range. So as you can imagine, all these different agencies and all the different people that work there have different interests in what they want to see in their offices. So we get some people that might not have an art background or any kind of interest that much in art, but there are the ones that came to select or put in charge by their office to be the ones to oversee this. And they will come in and saying, we work in this dark building with not that many windows, and we just need some color on these gray walls. It's think of standard office buildings. They're not the most exciting. So, they're really excited to be able to bring some kind of color and life and energy um, into the space. And so that can come in many different forms. So some people, again, don't have much guidance and just we want to look at color. We're sick of gray. We want just a colorful something to brighten up the space. But other times we get very thematic requests. We have people that come in and say, a director of an agency and says, I really want to challenge the people in my agency to think about certain things that we're working with and some kind of stronger themes, and like want to have talking points, want this art to be a conversation starter between the employees or the people that are coming to visit. So that can be a wide range of things. For example, Office of Planning recently selected artwork, and they were really looking for DC specific themes and representation, recognizable buildings, construction, things like that, monuments, DC imagery, because that's what they work on. The Deputy Mayor of Education was really looking for artwork where children, sports, or recreation are represented. So that kind of theme. So there's hundreds of different agencies, hundreds of different requests that we see. So it really is a wide range of things that people are looking for. And you never know, art is very, very personal and people have different experiences when they look at it. And so that runs the gambit of the requests as well. So then finally, once they've selected the artwork, we will then come and install it and with our art contracting handler. So we are displaying this artwork in public and semi-private areas. So, reception areas, hallways, conference rooms, community rooms, and director's offices. So, high traffic areas. Each piece is installed like it's already framed, and then we install it with a gallery label that identifies the artist, the title, and the medium. And then there's just some things to consider. So like I said, these are office buildings. They are not designed to be places where people are viewing art. We often have to work with what we have, which is hallways with not great lighting or exit signs or, narrow hallways, windows, cubicles that, are certain height that cover up certain part of the wall. So we want to make sure that your artwork is displayed in the best possible way. We want it to be appreciated. We don't want it to just look like someone hung it there without a care. We want it to be intentional. So we try to make sure that everything looks its best in the space that we have with the constraints of those office buildings. So again, the rugs, the color of the furniture, things like that. But we do the best. And so here are some great examples of the wide variety of places that artwork can be installed and some examples of those framing that I was talking about. So you can see in the second row of pictures, we have the second and fourth picture, that example of like the plexi covering like on a shadow box of an artwork that wouldn't fit in a traditional frame. And then you can see here some examples in offices, conference rooms, an end of a hallway. And also there's an example of a sculpture on a pedestal too there on that third picture on the first row. So you really see that it is a really wide range of spaces, really wide range of art. But it's great. I can't explain to you how often everybody that comes in that selects art, they're so excited. They're so excited to select art, and then they get so excited when they get installed. Everyone is so happy to have something and that's unique, that's their own. The offices get really attached to the pieces and the artists, sometimes when they come in, like, no, we want to add new things because we love this. Or they move offices. Oftentimes, offices will relocate and we ask them, do you want to freshen up new things? And they are so attached to the pieces because they're like, we love these. We've been looking at them every day. Like they feel like ours. They feel like they belong to us. So we love to see that. So yeah, that is an overview of the loan program.
Thank you so much, Louisa. Louisa has one of the coolest jobs on staff because she is just often in the field and she is one of the caretakers and keepers of the collection. So oftentimes on the front lines, seeing how much of an impact this art has on the community. She's also somebody that you can ask questions of related to artwork materials, sizing questions, and we'll get to a point in the conversation where those questions will be most salient. Okay, and I promise that we're going to pause in a couple minutes to address some of the questions that are already in the chat. I'm just going to run through some eligibility requirements for individuals and organizations, as well as eligibility requirements for the artwork itself. So You have to be, for an individual to apply to this program, there are a few eligibility requirements. You have to be an artist or an artist representative, meaning that you are the legal representative of that artist's estate. And you have to be age 18 or older. You have to be a legal resident of Washington, D.C., or a resident within a 50-mile radius of Washington, D.C., for at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. That 50-mile radius requirement exists for a few different reasons. Some of them being that we recognize that many artists live outside of the district's limits, but their life's work and practice is deeply embedded in DC. Maybe you are a professor of art in DC. Maybe your studio is in DC. Maybe you are, just a mile outside of the district and move freely as an artist within DC. You're committed to your practice there. We also recognize that the price of living in DC is incredibly high, and many artists and people in general have been forced out of the city's limits due to gentrification and urban renewal. And we want to recognize that many artists might fall in that category. And third, we are representative. We want to be a fine art collection that's representative of DC, and that means taking into account all the many people who live and work within the region. So again, you have to maintain your residency in that 50-mile radius for the entire grant term. So the grant term begins on October 1st and ends September 30th, 2026. So if you plan on moving to another state in that time, it's something to keep in mind. And then you have to be in good standing with CAH, which means that if you are a former grantee and you have not submitted your reports by the time of the FY26 cycle beginning, so in mid-October, then you are considered not in good standing with CAH. So for new applicants, that does not apply to you. There's some additional eligibility requirements for organizations. Again, this is open to individuals and organizations. Organizations must be nonprofit arts galleries or organizations that have 501c3 status dated at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. You have to have your principal business address in DC, and a majority of your business must be done in DC. And then there's a few additional requirements about what you cannot be. So you can't be a college or university, service organization. You can't be DC Public Schools, unfortunately. And again, you have to be in good standing with CAH, so no outstanding reports. So that's applicant eligibility. There are a number of additional requirements for the actual artwork that you are submitting in your application. And I'll say this is one of the more important slides in our slide deck for folks on this call. So and for everyone, I know that many people have been joining along the way, but this workshop is being recorded. So if you're furiously taking notes right now, all of these slides will be available to you. I'm going to send them to you via email. And then a workshop recording of our last 2 workshops are already available on our YouTube channel and on the Art Bank landing page on our Art Bank on CAH's website. So on this page, we have a list of requirements for the artwork itself. First of all, you can only submit 3 artworks for consideration. This has changed since last year. Last year, we allowed up to 5 works for submission. This year, we've limited that number to 3 because we've seen a large increase in applications to this program, and we've found that it creates quite a burden on the jury to review the number of artworks that have come in. And we want to make sure that artists are creating a package that's cohesive and allows the jury to really understand you as an artist. For nonprofit organizations, that number is 10 works from any combination of 2 or more artists. And the artwork itself must be a recent body of work and then we define that as created within the last 10 years. or the artwork should represent a significant acquisition in terms of its contribution to the history of visual art in the district. And we define significant historical contribution in a couple of ways. One might be that you are saying that you're contributing a work that represents a historical moment in DC's history or a historical space in DC. Perhaps you have created a painting that is documenting the demolition of RFK Stadium. Or you took a photograph of the March on Washington. These would be considered historical acquisitions. You might also be submitting work from a moment in your career that you see as significant for us to acquire. So perhaps you are a returning applicant and you have submitted paintings and we've acquired paintings from you, but there was a point in your career where you were a mixed media collage artist and you want to submit some of those pieces because you see it as a significant moment in your career. Just marking these reasons in your application is something that we encourage people to do in the essay section of your application. So you'll say your reasoning there. The artwork itself should be has some parameters around sizing and materials. So it should be composed of archival materials that are sustainable for a permanent collection. So they should meet the industry standard of archival materials and should be durable. So Louisa mentioned that we do a lot of caretaking and conservation work on the collection. So you'll want to submit work that can be conserved permanently. We have some size constraints for acquisitions. The wall-mounted artwork should not exceed 72 inches in any direction, and sculptures should not exceed 36 inches in height or 24 inches in width and depth. There's also some weight considerations. Wall-mounted artwork should not exceed 60 pounds in weight, and any freestanding sculpture should not exceed 100 pounds in weight. Again, sculptures are going to be displayable in a wall vitrine or pedestal. And for wall-mounted sculptures, you're going to have to remember that 6 inches off the wall is as far off the wall as we can accept due to ADA compliance and wanting to make sure that the artwork is protected in high traffic areas, as well as the people are protected in high traffic areas. This is one that can sometimes be a little bit tricky for artists. The artwork should be available for acquisition at the time of submission. So that means that if your artwork is currently at the time where we are asking you to bring it in for final review, the artwork shouldn't be in a museum exhibition, for example, or the artwork shouldn't be mounted in a private collection already, and you are asking for it back to be sold somewhere else. We do not allow for substitutions of works at that time or at any point in the application process. So something to keep in mind. And then for nonprofit arts organizations who are submitting artists, the artists should also meet all of the individual eligibility requirements. So that means that they should be living within a 50-mile radius of DC. There are a number of things that we unfortunately can't accept, a number of materials that aren't allowed within our collection. And here is a comprehensive list of what those things are. If you are worried that a type of material that you work with in your art practice falls in one of these categories, please reach out to us, and me and Louisa and our collections registrar, Ron Humbertson, are happy to talk to you and see if it falls in a prohibited category. But some of the things that you cannot submit are books, anything that is living plant material, such as soil, anything that is preserved, or live insects, animals, any raw food items, any liquids. Unfortunately, we do not accept artwork that requires electricity due to the capacity of our loan program. We can't ensure that artwork can always have access to outlets. We don't acquire anything that has vapors or smokes, that is flammable, that could potentially harm people, no weapons and firearms. And again, just reach out if you have any particular questions about this. Whew, okay. So we've finally reached a pause. And I know that there are questions in the chat. And so we'll start there. But as I'm answering these questions, also feel free to use the raise your hand feature in Zoom or unmute yourself, and we can start to chat a little bit. Okay, so I'm just opening up the chat to see where we can start. The question about thematic categories, I think Louisa covered quite nicely in our loan program conversation. There is a sort of second question within the question about any subject matters that are not recommended. And the person wrote, of course, above and beyond the usual no politics, overt sexual themes, or religious content. We recommend that you think about public spaces when you're considering your submission. For example, we share our space with Child and Family Services at CAH. And so we're mindful of the possibility of children seeing the artwork that we have in our collection in that space. I don't want to make any stark recommendations about thematic categories that are prohibited. And it is ultimately up to the jury's discretion alongside the public art team's discretion on if the work is suitable for our collection. And we tend to have really robust conversations about thematic content that are specific to the works. Okay. I see a question. If you already have a work by a DC artist that was added to your collection many, many years ago, would you accept a newer work by that DC artist? Absolutely. We're happy to accept work by artists who are already in our collection. We tend to appreciate work from artists who are already in our collection that adds to what we already have in the collection, that isn't duplicative of what we already have, but shows either a new direction, is from a new series, or shows a moment from a different time in that artist's career, different subject matter. But yes, we have many artworks by artists in some cases. Okay. See a question. 2 of my artworks were included into the art bank in the late 90s when I lived in DC. However, since moving to Maryland in 2003, my artwork hasn't been selected. And the reply from the DC Commission is that we have your artwork in our collection. What can I do to better ensure my artwork will be considered? I think that's another way of tackling what I was just discussing about how you can demonstrate new parts of your arts practice, new directions. It's a highly subjective jury process. We'll go through the review criteria that we use for each juror. It's the same across all of our art bank juries. And you'll see that juries will interpret those review criteria differently every single year. So I just encourage everyone to continue to apply every single year. Okay, a question for maintaining primary residency during the entire funding period. What if I need to travel during this period? Any specific days required must be in primary residency. So you are not required to be landlocked for your entire grant term. It's that your permanent primary place of residence should be within a 50-mile radius of DC. Let's say that you take a residency for 2 months and you are working in Iowa. That is totally fine with us. It is that your home address remains the same over the course of the grant term. But that's a great question. Let's see. How many images can be submitted for 3D artwork? Views of the image. So I think this question is getting at, can you submit multiple angles of a singular artwork? We do not accept detail shots for the application. So you should submit as like a singular, if you need to submit the artwork from multiple angles, I would suggest creating like a composite image that shows the work from multiple angles, but is one JPEG image. Are tea bags permitted in the artworks? Louisa, do you want to try to tackle that one?
So I think if tea bags that have tea, I think it would classify under food. I can double check with Ron, but I think yeah, if they still had like the remnants of the tea, yeah, that would be under the food category, which we would not allow. I know some people use tea bags sometimes and like remove the tea and just like wash them, and like bleach them or things like that. So in that sense, I think that they should be okay. As long as there's been like some kind of treatment process to remove any remnants of the food, just because for conservation's sake, I'm sure like with insects and things like that, we just want to avoid anything that attracts them and that would be edible for them. So yeah, let me know if you need more clarity on that. I can.
Yeah, I'll ask this person to reach out to us via email and maybe describe the work a little bit more in detail, and we can say definitively whether or not it works for our collection. Next question is, what if a piece you submit sells beforehand? This happens all the time in the jury process. What we ask that you do if we're still at the deliberation stage is you should reach out and email me and let me know that that piece is no longer available for acquisition and that the other pieces in your application remain available. And then we'll disqualify that work from review. Do the jurors change from year to year? Yes, the juries change every year, and we try not to repeat jurors from year to year. And the jury pool is representative of the metropolitan arts community from a range of perspectives. So we have gallerists, curators, arts administrators, artists, you name it. We've had them, arts appreciators, collectors. So there's a few different ways that we will invite jurors through personal invitation, but also through our volunteer apply to be a juror platform. I'll have somebody from our team drop that link in the chat. If you're interested in being a juror for any of our CH grant lines, we are always looking for jurors. And you can apply to be an art bank juror or any of the other grant lines. How do you define political art? Oh, I feel like we could have a whole workshop just on that question. I really do hesitate to offer a definition of political art in this space. I'm not sure how to tackle that one. Louisa, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, yeah, I think it's like I said, it really depends. So some things that people interpret things in such different ways, so we really can't say like what even people selecting artwork, or even like the first stage, obviously the jurors seeing it, what they could interpret, and then what the people that select artwork would interpret for
Yeah.
anything, whether it be political or not political. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we tend to not collect work that is that has any definitive statements about like a political party or about a person in office, like any type of negative curse, like any curse words or slang. Um, Political slang tends to be hard for us to acquire. But beyond that, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very subjective.
I'd say like social commentary is different because that kind of thing has a lot more nuance and range, and
Right.
people are interested in that. But overtly like political about people or things, and people
Yeah,
specifically, I think is harder. But yeah, we definitely have a lot of themes, our work that covers broad social themes and commentary and criticism of social themes, and that is definitely
absolutely.
um definitely accepted and chosen. Some people really do like that in their offices also. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. How many jurors are there in each year? So this year we are having 5 jury panels, and we aim to have between 5 and 6 people per jury panel. So it's a large group of jurors this year.
So I think we skipped a couple questions
Oh, did I
earlier. I
miss
can go back.
some?
Yeah, I think um
How many
there's
artists will be selected? See that
yeah,
one.
even for back is one I feel, should component-based pieces be backed on a unified surface? And I can actually
Oh, I missed
answer
that.
that.
Sure, go for it.
So it depends. If you have a way, we've had people submit our work. You can even think of last year, that's like like a, not even a collage, but like a 9 different pieces that were arranged separately. And when we will go to frame it, we will frame them so that they are in one piece. Usually, if it's that many, it depends. I think the component number depends. So if it's like 2 components that are can be framed separately, it depends how you present the work, I should say. It's really up to you as the artist to how you best present it. Um, but it doesn't have to be, if they don't have to already be on a unified surface, but know that if it's a certain amount of pieces, they might end up being framed in that way. And if we have any confusion about framing, we'll reach out to you um, after acquiring it. But that's not a requirement. Um, I think, yeah, if that makes sense, let me know if I can answer that further. And then there's also a question
Um,
about framing I can answer. So if you submit a print on paper and it gets selected, you do not have to frame anything. You don't have to frame anything beforehand, but I don't know if Michelle covered this or not, but for the DCR Now exhibition, we will only exhibit things that are framed. And so but we won't, just because it is framed isn't a guarantee that it will also be in the exhibition. So the exhibition is a lot of playing around with the space we have and maximizing it. So there's no guarantee that if you submit a framed work, it will be displayed on the wall. But if you submit a not framed work, it will not be displayed on the wall. We'll have like a virtual gallery where we show the images of that artwork on a TV screen. Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm realizing I haven't mentioned that part of the process yet. So there are multiple rounds of review for our art bank process. There's a virtual review process where the work is reviewed by a jury panel. And then if the jury would like to bring your work in for finalist consideration for in-person viewing, that will happen in August. And we will reach out to finalists to bring in their work for consideration for finalist consideration. At that point, we curate a show in our I Street gallery space in Navy Yard that is representative of those who have made it to the finalist round. We call it DC Art Now. And not all, as Louisa said, not all people who make it to the finalist round will be included in that show. We don't have the physical space and capacity to bring all of the work in. But especially we cannot show your work if it does not come in framed to us at that point. And we really leave it up to the artist's discretion. If you would like to submit your work framed at that time, we recognize that framing your work is an additional cost. And we don't want that to be a requirement or burden on you at that point. What's the smallest size accepted? Louisa wrote in the chat, there's no limit to how small a piece can be. And we have collected some very small pieces. What's the budget for purchasing? We don't disclose that number. It changes every year and it's very dependent on our budget. But it's a sizable budget. I believe I saw in the chat how many artists are accepted. Last year we had almost 300 submissions to the art bank and 68 artists were acquired. What are the requirements for eligibility from last year's art bank grantees that might preclude them from participating? I'm not quite sure I'm understanding your question, Pedro, but I think what you're getting at is there any eligibility requirements that would preclude someone who was acquired last year from getting acquired this year? There's nothing. People apply every year, and sometimes get acquired from year to year. But apologies if I'm misrepresenting your question. Perhaps you can reframe it. I have some conceptual work that includes a bit of wall text. Objects and text work together. Is that the kind of thing that is allowed? Do you want to take that, Louisa?
Yeah, I guess it depends. I think what if it's like the wall text is like just like a information that you want, or if it's also, I don't know, like framed or like on a piece of paper or something like that, or on a piece of paper that could be framed, for example, to be part of it. Like we do have people submit like a diptych or something and it says 2 pieces, and if that is part of it, if it's just like wall text that you normally include, that would be a new one. I'd have to talk with Ron about how we would do that. We don't usually, for example, people always, when your submission, you can write like a little statement explaining the artwork. We don't include that with the artwork. We just have basic wall text, and then we have, further information sometimes on our e-museum if it's provided, yeah, we'd have to see like yeah, you can feel free to email us with more clarification. If you have like an example of exactly if it's like on a separate sheet or printed or written out in your hand as well. It's something that we could like easily frame as 2 separate pieces that could easily be done.
Okay, I'm really appreciating all of the questions that are in the chat. This is also our largest group from any workshop that we've done this year, and so I recognize that this workshop session might go over our hour and a half time frame. So just marking that if you've only allotted yourself for 90 minutes, we might run a little bit over. Let's see. Can a person who's serving as a representative for a deceased artist also apply as an artist in their own right? This is an incredibly good question. And the answer is I do not know. I know that it is very possible for an individual to submit as an artist representative for a deceased artist. I've navigated that process successfully before with an applicant, but I've never navigated an applicant applying as both an individual for themselves and as a representative for another person. So I'm going to have to actually ask the powers that be above me to confirm the answer for you on that one. But yeah, the short answer is I do not know, but I will get back to you. Does the pricing of the art affect the decision making? So the answer to this question has kind of changed as of this year because last year when we were acquiring potentially more than one work by an artist, The only time that budget would be brought into consideration is if we wanted to bring in more than one of your pieces and that number exceeded that $15,000 mark. This year, since the maximum is $15,000 and we're only acquiring one piece of art, the budget only comes into consideration when we are looking at the yeses, the nos, and the maybes from the jury process. And we are accepting the yeses. We are saying no to the nos, and it's those maybes that we're trying to figure out what within our budget can we acquire. So the short answer is no, your artwork price does not matter. Like we're never going to come back to you and say you have priced this too low or you've priced this too high. We can't acquire it if it's within that $15,000 amount. But it can count. It can matter at the stage of us trying to figure out what we can acquire from any given grant year, if that makes sense. Do you give technical assistance on the day of the deadline, May 19th, if we encounter any technical issues with the platform? So our deadline is, as this person says, May 19th at 9 p.m. And we make the deadline 9 p.m. because we recognize that artists will sometimes be working on their submission up until the evening hours. I am available via email on that day and by phone. I recognize that artists will often wait until the very last minute to submit their application, and I can only do so much at that stage. So I will try to accommodate your questions up until that deadline. But you should recognize that you might be one of many people who are needing technical assistance at that deadline. But yes, I will be available by phone and email at that point. There's also a support tab on the grants website that can give you some of that technical assistance as well. Do I give assistance in choosing the artwork? Yes, if you would schedule some time with me, I'm happy to review your application. Again, I can't say this, you should submit this work because it will get acquired. I do not have that power as the grant manager, but I can take a look at your work and say, considering XYZ factors from your last submission or feedback from the jury previously, or considering knowing your work in these ways, I can suggest this work or this work.
Schedule time with that.
What are the deadlines for submission? May 19th at 9 p.m. Let's see. I'm seeing Carlissima. Carlissima, you wanted to ask a question. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself or if that
Hello.
question above. Hi there.
Hello. I just wanted to say that if you have, let me just put myself so you can see me.
Okay.
So, the size of the artwork, I have like 3 really big pieces, and then I have some medium ones. Do you think that maybe the medium ones will be more acceptable, since I don't know if you have limited space for them? I mean, they're going to be less than 72 inches. But I want to know if you prefer medium size if you have any space constraints in the offices where you're going to place them.
So as long as it's within that 72-inch constraints, we happily accept all sizes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. How much weight is given to the CV and essays in the selection process? We're going to transition in just a sec to selection criteria, and we'll cover that in that portion. It is sometimes a long process to obtain clean hand certificate as a Maryland resident. Any suggestions? Yes, we'll also cover mandatory documents in a sec, but If you are a Maryland or Virginia resident and you need to apply for a clean hands, and for folks on the call scratching their head saying, what's a clean hands? We'll get to that in just a sec. But it can take anywhere from 48 hours a day to 2 weeks for people who live outside of the district to receive clean hands. I wish I knew why. I unfortunately don't. But I would suggest if you're on this call and you live in Maryland and Virginia and you have not applied for a certificate of clean hands, that you should do that immediately to move forward in the process.
I'm sorry, what is this clean hand thing? I did not get.
Yes. Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet in the workshop, and I'll explain what that is in just a sec. I see some questions about contact info. I'm happy to share it. It'll be at the end, but if someone wants to drop my email in the chat.
Yeah, I just put both our emails in the chat.
Okay. Can modifications be made to an artwork after submission? Would it disqualify the piece? No, you are not allowed to make modifications to the piece after you have submitted an image of it. If we have clean hands from 2024, is that enough? It has to be dated. Your clean hand certificate should be dated within within 30 days of the submission window. So no, your 2024 certificate will not be accepted. Okay, I'm going to move us to our next part of the workshop. And I'll go over our evaluation criteria. So again, as I mentioned, we will have a total of 5 jury panels this year reviewing applications, and they are all using the same evaluation criteria. There's 3 different categories for evaluation of your submissions. The first is worth 50% of your evaluation, and it is rightfully the aesthetic and conceptual strength of your artwork. So is the artwork that you have submitted visually impactful? Does it show technical skill? Is it conceptually inventive? Is it stimulating intellectually? Does the artwork reflect the artistic diversity of DC? Is it an outstanding individual expression of creativity? The second evaluation criteria, which is worth 20% of your evaluation, is artistic contribution. This is where your CV and resume comes into play. Are you an artist who has an extensive exhibition history as a fine artist in the metropolitan area or beyond? Are you already included in collections across the country or locally or internationally? Are you someone who, as part of your art practice, has contributed to the metropolitan arts community? Are you somebody who has a significant impact on artists in the region? Are you a teacher? Are you a art collector? Are you an appreciator? Do you attend events? That is one part of the evaluation criteria in this category. The flip side of that is if you are just beginning your career, if you are someone who does not have an extensive exhibition criteria, or exhibition history, that is okay. We celebrate you and we want to acquire your art. We love work by emerging artists. And again, as I said at the beginning of our time together, we take pride in the fact that we are sometimes the first stop along the way of an artist's career in being acquired into a permanent collection. So perhaps in this category, you're evaluated for being a highly promising emerging artist who would greatly benefit from being included in our collection. This is something that we value so much that as of last year, we required that 25% of our annual acquisitions into the art bank be from artists who are new to our collection. Okay, and then third and finally is your value as a cultural asset. So this is getting at that cultural impact statement that's required as a part of your submission. We are looking to acquire artwork by artists who are committed to this region, who show that they are connected to DC and care for this region. We are looking at the artworks fit for a municipal collection that is being displayed in the district in DC government buildings. And we are looking for artwork that adds to our collection. If you are someone who has already been collected in the past, this evaluation criteria helps us understand, is this work that you have submitted a great addition to our collection? There are a number of mandatory documents that you will submit with your application. And some of these are pretty standard documents, and a few of them are required compliance documents that are unique to the DC Arts Commission. So all of the documents you see here are pretty standard for an artwork application process. You're going to be submitting a 250 word or less artist statement that describes who you are as an artist, your art making process, and then for your submitted works, a couple lines that reflect on how the submitted works connect back to your art making practice. Any sort of description that you'd like to share of the works at that time for the jury to review. You'll then submit a cultural impact statement, which is a short statement talking about how you're committed to the DC arts community, and how your artwork will support your practice in the DC region. You'll submit a resume that might list any exhibitions that you've been a part of, any publications or commissions that you've had, any collections that you're already in, and any relevant education that you have. You'll submit a document that serves as an image identification list. And this is a very straightforward document where you just list the name, the title, the year, medium, dimensions, and price of each artwork that you've submitted. And then, of course, you'll submit the artwork files themselves. So these should be high quality JPEG files. They should not be blurry. They should not be showing anything other than the artwork itself. And again, you are allowed to submit up to 3 artworks for individuals, and for nonprofit organizations up to 10. And then we'll get into some of those mandatory compliance documents here. So someone was asking, what is a clean hands? These documents, a couple of them are unique to us, but the Certificate of Clean Hands is a DC-wide government mandate for grant applications. So a clean hands document demonstrates that you do not owe any taxes or fines to the DC government over a certain amount of money. So the premise of this document and why we ask for it is because we do not want to give government funds to somebody who owes money to the government. We recognize that this is can sometimes be an equity issue for artists. If you are someone who struggles to pay your parking tickets, if you're someone who struggles to pay your taxes, there is a way that you can apply for and receive a certificate of clean hands if you enter into a payment plan with the DC government. I believe a link is getting dropped in the chat right now that will allow you to learn more about the clean hands certificate process. For DC government residents, you can apply and receive your clean hands certificate rather quickly within the day. For Maryland and Virginia residents, this can sometimes take a little bit longer, which is why I recommend that if you haven't already applied for a certificate of clean hands, that you do so immediately. The second document is a statement of certification. This document is unique to the DC Arts Commission. All applicants of all CAH grant lines will fill out and sign this document. It's just a document saying that you agree to the terms of the CAH application process. You'll submit a W-9, the 2024 version of the W-9, signed and dated, with an address that matches all of your other documents. And then this final document, the relationship and copyright warranty form, is unique to the Art Bank program. So the CAH only acquires artwork that is original artwork that is available for sale by the artist or the artist representative. There have been problems in the past with artists or applicants submitting work that they did not have the legal right to sell. And so we want to make sure that the work that you're submitting is original to you, original to the artist that you're representing, and is available. All of these documents that are listed, I'll just go back here. All of these documents that are listed are available on our CAH website. A link should also get dropped in the chat for where you can find all of these. All of these documents are on the Art Bank landing page on the CAH website, but that's where you can find them. For organizations, there's a couple additional documents that are required. If you're submitting on behalf of artists as an organization, so you should have a signed letter from each artist noting that they know that their work is being submitted to this Art Bank grant line. Should have an IRS letter of determination, a DC tax certificate of incorporation, and an IRS Form 990. So those are specific to your nonprofit status. So we're getting close to the point in our workshop together where I'm going to be talking about what it takes to actually submit your application. And we just have a couple tips and tricks here on the slide for best practices for submitting your application. As you've just noticed, there's a bunch of things that you must submit with your application. So we recommend just creating a document on your computer, or I'm sorry, a folder on your computer where you can put all of the documents associated with this application, and create a naming process for yourself for those documents that allows you to know what everything is. So perhaps it's W9 underscore your last name, or image identification underscore your last name. We recommend that you have someone from outside of your discipline read your application materials, because it is likely that someone from outside of your artistic discipline will be reviewing your application. Let's say that you're a painter and you have a photographer review your application. That's something that we think of as a valuable step in the review process. We recommend that you get into the application deadline, or the application portal, prior to the May 19th deadline. We're going to walk through what the portal looks like right now, but it can trip up applicants to navigate the portal, and we just recommend getting all of your application materials together and starting to get into the application portal now. And then again, if you're having any technical issues with the portal, there is a support tab for you to submit issues. Okay, I'm going to pause again for questions here, and I'm going to look in the chat, but again, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself. You accept PNG image files? Yes, I believe we do. We recommend JPEG files as the standard, but I think PNGs can be opened. Clean Hands ask about real estate taxes and demands information about that place. My organization has no address. We meet at libraries and schools. What do we do? This is a great question, Aziza, and I imagine that if your organization is registered as a 501c3, which it needs to be for this application process, you would have a letter of determination or documents in IRS 990 that would be tied to a permanent address or a place of business. I'm happy to talk offline about this because I think I know what organization you're referencing. But I imagine that all nonprofit organizations have to have a place of business registered to their organization. And I apologize if I'm spreading misinformation on that. Will a suspended two-sided mobile artwork be considered? I don't think that two-sided artworks are a great fit for our collection due to the nature of our loan program. It's rare that we have places to suspend artwork from areas where you can experience it in a 360 way. Louisa, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I answered in the chat, but yes, we do not accept anything that has to be suspended from either the ceiling or even like something jutting out of a wall and hanging down. Just as Michelle said, we don't have the ability to install that. So really it has to be something that can be wall mounted, framed, and or is a sculpture and can be on a pedestal. So anything that's suspended would not be able to be accepted for that reason.
Is there a link for Clean Hands for Maryland residents? In my follow-up email to everyone who registered for this, I share a few documents that are helpful for bringing your application together. One of them is applying for a Clean Hands certificate as a Maryland or Virginia resident. So look out for that document. It's also available on the Clean Hands website. If you poke around a little bit, it's the same. It's a similar process for Maryland residents. After you have submitted your application, is it possible to make changes? You cannot make changes to your application once it's submitted. But if you reach out to us with a particular concern, we can work with you to identify if we can make that change.
I'm sorry, I'm still not clear about the clean hand thing. Is it like a link? Is it an application? Is it a form? I just heard you say clean hand website. Is it a website? I'm still not sure what it is.
Sure. So if you look in the chat, my colleague Vanessa Ackham has dropped a link that goes into further detail about what the Certificate of Clean Hands is. It's something that you can apply for from the Office of Tax and Revenue. So you obtain a certificate through OTR, and it's a digital process. So you apply online. And it's a document that shows that you are in compliance and you do not owe any funds to the DC government.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Is it easy to upload the Clean Hands certificate on the platform, or can we email it to you? So we're about to go through the grant application portal where you'll be submitting all of your documents, and there's a place for you to submit your Clean Hands. On the statement of certification, there's a space to fill out title. What is this referring to? I think title could refer to a few different things. You might put, if you have like a doctorate, you might put doctor. If you have if you have a particular identifier that you'd like to put there, you can put it there, like junior or senior. I think that might be what title is. Okay, I'm going to move us along. And we have reached the point where I'm going to stop sharing my screen and switch over to a recording of our collections registrar, Ron Humbertson, walking you through our grant application portal. One sec. And I recognize we're at 2:18. We're supposed to end at 2:30, but we're going to go over that time frame. I completely understand if you have to run. Again, this workshop will be available in recording form, and I'll send it to you this afternoon for your review. So if you need to run, I completely understand. And thank you for your time that you've already shared with us today. Okay. Can everyone see this? And I'm going to press play, and just Louisa, give me a thumbs up if you can hear the sound.
This is the part where we'll go through this step by step. And this is a good little guideline that we do for our grant programs and our applicants, just so they can visually see what the portal looks like, how to navigate it, and what steps you're going to encounter. Now, if you're a rookie to this, you might want to snooze a little bit, but maybe you'll get some good tips. But if you're new, this is good because it can get a little confusing at times when working through this system. So we're here to help. So this is the front page of your guide to grants, where you will have to either sign up today, where you'll make an account, or if you already have a login, you can sign in right underneath. So when you sign up today, it's going to populate my emails, of course, but you're going to want to just put your emails, name and number, save, and your account will be created. And you will receive an email notification saying that your account is ready to go. Once ready, go ahead and log in. And it's actually, this is my dummy account, so I just use a Gmail. One second. Go ahead and log in. About that, I copied and pasted the wrong password. I have so many passwords, it's crazy. Gmail. All right, here we go. So you'll get to your welcome page. To continue, you can just hit continue here. And you can start your application with the new application. If you've already started your application and you saved it and you come back, your application will be found under this tab, My Open Applications. But since we're kind of starting this as a new applicant, I'm just going to go ahead and click on over here, the green button, New Application. And then the system will be pulling up all of the available grants that you can apply to at the moment. So you'll see a few. Right now, you'll see the Art Bank, General Operating Support, and Public Art Communities Grant, which is another public art grant that we provide. But we're going to do individuals. Once you click on individuals, you just have to answer these simple eligibility questions. Have you been a resident within 50 miles of District of Columbia? You just say yes. Have you read the guidelines? This is very important. Our guidelines are created to help you. I know it's like a 14-page document, but really, if you do have time, go through that document because it will really give you a better sense of what you need and the application, and just remind you as you go through. So if you did, or if you didn't, just say yes. If you say no to any of these questions, you will not be eligible. And you have a social security number, of course. Congratulations, I'm eligible. You want to hit save and continue. To continue, you're going to be asked these 2 simple questions. And this is just information that we pull from the back end across our grants. So we understand if you're a new grantee, if you've applied before. So I'm going to say no, I have not received a grant in the last 5 years. And this is an important one. If you're a continuing applicant, it's important for us to know if your address changed in the last 12 months since your award last year, because there's an entire process that we have to go through to make sure you're awarded to get you updated in the system once you are. So that just gives us a heads up that you changed your address. If you move forward to award, we know that we're going to have to work with you just a little bit extra paperwork to get your address updated in the system. So I'm just going to say no and hit save and continue. This is the request page. So this just has all of the information of your application. Name, last name. This first one, are you doing business as someone else? So you can be an individual. You might be doing business under another name or your artistic name, but we need to know what that is. But if not, just hit not applicable. Some artists use their name or they use another name. We just need to capture that so we know what is on your W-9 and how we should label your artwork as a professional artist. So I'm just going to go through, you're just going to go through, type in all of your first name, middle name, last name. If you have a suffix, your street address. I'm going to kind of just quickly go through here. Your applicant city, your applicant state, applicant zip code. I'm going to say I'm in Ward 8 because that's where our agency is located. I can put a number in. I don't need to put a secondary number. This is where you need to add your applicant login. So the same email that you signed up with. I don't have a secondary email. I can add my website. And this is where you get into sort of a applicant discipline. And this just kind of helps us narrow down what type of artist you are or how you self-identify yourself as an artist. So as you can see, we have many options here. You could say, you know, we have a lot of humanities. That is just the general. Did I just see it? Visual artist. Visual arts. And then you can also self-identify yourself as another type of activity. And I'm just going to say none of the above at the moment. Now, this is important too. This is so we can indicate if you're a first-time applicant. You can say no. You do have to put in your social security number. And I know a lot of people are nervous about entering their social security number, but I've been here for over 10 years and we've never had any issues with the system. It's very safe. I was talking with another applicant online through email, and I'm going to be talking with the team to see if it's possible that we can encrypt that line. So when you enter the information, it can be encrypted, but we will still get it on the back end just for added safety. But for now, we have to add your social security number. Now, this is where I would actually just save for a moment. And what it did is push me into the other tab. When working through this program, you really have to save as you are working through it. If you step away from your computer for more than 10, 15 minutes, it will most likely bump you out. And if you did not save, you'll lose all the information that you just put in. So as you're entering, just randomly hit save, go back to the screen that you were in and continue working. This is also one of our tips, is to not start the application when you don't have everything written and ready to go. It's really important in this application to have a very strong artist statement and impact statement. That's really what drives with your art, your application, and what the jurors find out about you. So it's really important to maybe open up a Word or a page document, finalize your artist statement, finalize your impact statement, get it looked at, double check it for spelling in the program. And that way, when you're doing the application, all you have to do is copy and paste it right in there. And we say that because sometimes we have applicants who just start writing their statement in the block. And then that can get confusing because it might not be edited correctly, not be the way you want it, or you'll lose it if you start writing, step away, and it's no longer saved. So we really recommend having it ready to go when you start the application. Will make your application go a lot smoother. So I'm just going to say that I already have my statement ready. I have my impact statement ready to go. And I hit save and continue. Now, again, maybe at this point I want to quit. I want to sign out. When I log back in, I'm going to just want to go over here to the left and click on my open applications, and you'll see my application right there. Then you'll just want to hit edit, and it will take you back to the first page. So what you can do up here at the top is just go back to the page you were on, or if you wanted to, save and check through again, but you can just hit work samples is where I stopped. So this is where a lot of times it gets very confusing for applicants, especially first time, because the system is not very user-friendly sometimes at this point. In the application portal, you have a media library. And that's where you're going to be basically uploading all of your images, all of the 3 images that you're going to want to add to this application. To begin that, what you're going to want to do is attach media from library. You want to click that. Where is the, where is the, does it allow me to from here? Hold on.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the media library so you can add images. Oh.
Yeah, that was it right there. That you clicked into
so,
it. Yeah, attach media from media library.
What you're going to want to do actually, when you're at the work samples upload page, you're going to want to come over here and click on my media library. So you're going to exit the application if you don't have images already updated. So for instance, if you applied, is the fellowship open yet? No. But if you have artwork from a previous application that is still available sale and you want to add it, then you can add it there quickly. But if you have no media in your library or you want to add 3 new artworks, you're going to want to exit application and click on my media library. And then what you're going to want to do is choose your file. I'm just going to quickly go into my massive art bank collection. These are all the images of our collection, all 3,000. And I'm going to select, I'm saying, okay, I want to sell this artwork. And I'm going to hit submit. Now you'll see that it's not there. Wait till it's successfully added. And then you can go back up, click on my media library, and it's there. So do that for the 3 images that you want. Get them in your media library. Go back to your open application. Edit. Up here at the top, view application overview request. Click on work sample as it uploads. So just because you entered it into the media library, that does not mean that is attached to your grant application, because you could be applying to multiple grants. So you have to tell which image you added that you want in this specific application. So you're going to want to come back and say attach media from library, and it's going to open up, you see the pop-up screen. It's going to open up your media viewer, and you're going to click on over here on the left. You're going to want to click file. And then you're like, okay, I want to add this one. And I want to add this one. And then close. And you see that they are now added to your application. And that's the easy way. So I hope that made sense. You just open up your attached media library after you've already added them, and you're going to click on the title and it will populate. At this point, for each image, you've got to click to update the media file information. This is also very helpful. It's almost like a repeat of your image list that you have to upload, but it gives a quick little overview in the jury panel side. When they're looking at the image, they'll have the information there so they don't have to open up a separate image file. So you're going to want to add the title. You're going to want to add the media type, painting. This is oil. The year created, 2024. No edition number because it's not a photograph. The retail price. So this is what you're wanting to sell. So this artwork is for $6,500. Artwork dimensions, 24 by 36. It's just a sample. And then a little description. This could be the opportunity in this little box. You can just repeat, it's an oil painting from a specific series, or you can really dive in to what specifically prompted this piece. What does it mean? Is it part of a series? Was it a part of a special event? This is information that you can give the jurors that gives a little more context to what this piece was about, if that makes sense. So you want to use that opportunity in the description to just talk about what it is, this painting, what it came from, maybe talk about the special material that was used, maybe talk about the special story that it talks about or touches on. After you do that, you just hit save and it will save there. Now, see what happened? This application portal has glitches, and we know this, and we've worked diligently to try to fix these all the time. If I hit refresh, you'll notice that 2 of my media files dropped. Sometimes this happens. You're just going to want to go back into your media, attach them again. And we don't know why this happened. We always are working with our contractor to fix these little errors. But Michelle, this might be something we can ask him, because I've had this done, this happened previously. So you see that they're back. So don't panic. For some reason, things glitch. So I'm going to go back into, this was already filled out from a previous application. But if not, I needed to fill that out. Again, it's dropping it's dropping work. So I don't know why that's happening. We might need to
Yeah, that's
put
a
a
new
ticket
one.
in.
We'll put a ticket in.
We got to put a ticket for that. So just keep making sure. We do apologize. Maybe it'll be fixed by time you start. I'm going to click to update to make sure I have everything. So I already have everything because I've done it with a previous application before. So there they are. They're still there. So the 3 are still there. So at this point, I say save. Every time you do a big step, save. Go back to my open applications, click on edit again, and up at the top, go back to your work samples. They're still there, still looking lovely. Now, further down is your required documents. These are what Michelle was talking about. Your artist resume, your image list, your statement of cert, clean hands, W-9, copyright form, and proof of residency. Now, don't panic. We only see these documents. The only documents that the jury sees on their side when they log in is the resume and the identification list. They don't see anything else. All of these are hidden from them, and it's just for our use if you are awarded, so we can push forward with your application on day one. So I'm just going to choose a PDF randomly on my desktop. Hopefully you'll be a little bit more organized than I am. We really recommend, if you have the capability, please provide us with a PDF. It's universal along Macs and IBMs for the jurors. It also is beneficial because and it's okay if you upload a Word document, that's totally fine. But if you upload a Word document, the jury actually has to download it to their computer and then open it up and see it. The PDF will just be in a pop-up, so they don't have to download it. So that's just something to think about. If you can convert to a PDF, please do. It just makes it a little bit easier, and you won't have any issues with the jury downloading documents to your application. But we do not accept pages, so please do not submit Apple programs, only Microsoft Word or PDF, LA PDF.
Ron, I'm giving you a 4-minute warning until our end.
Okay, I'm actually almost done.
Awesome.
Am I going too long? I'm sorry.
No, you're great. I'm just giving you time.
What I do want to say too is this is an opportunity for me because I've been here for a very long time. When you're submitting images, please submit the highest res that you can to show the details. And do not, and I repeat, we see this all the time, please do not heavily Photoshop your work. It gets very difficult, and the jurors remember. They're looking at your images on the screen. So if you've heightened things in Photoshop, or you've heightened things to make it look crisper or cleaner, I will tell you, they will know. Constantly through the jury process, when we bring in pieces, they're like, this does not look like the application. And they pull up the application and they will notice those differences. So try to stay as true you can to the piece you have. And we know different lighting does different things. And I'm only really talking about really high saturation on things. So just be careful with the Photoshop because it can actually be detrimental to your application where they might like it at that high intensity, but when you bring it in, it's a little duller and it doesn't look as good. So that's just a little highlight that I would like to give as just an advice. So after you have all of your photos in, all of your required documents in, you want to hit save and continue. This is the opportunity. You're going to have like 2 times to double check this. They're not kidding. So they want to make sure that you have your application right. So you're going to want to go through, double check, everything is there. All your images are there. All of your documents are there. Submit application. It went through. I'm good to go. So what I do is now I have to electronically signature. I scroll down to the bottom, type in your name, type in your initials, however you want, hit ready to submit, and then submit. You'll receive an email that lets you know that your application was submitted. If you submit your application and you're like, oh no, I messed up, I didn't put the right images, reach out to Michelle or me. We can unsubmit your application on the back end and you can go in and change it to resubmit it. So just let us know. So now you're not going to want to do that at the last minute on Friday, but if you submit it early and you realize that you messed up an application document, just let us know, we can help you. But I hope this was helpful and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, stop sharing that and go back to our PowerPoint. And I appreciate all of you for sticking around the extra few minutes. I know some of our numbers have dropped off, but many of you are still here, which, I applaud. So I want to just let you know that we'll be sending this slide deck to you. And in the slide deck are some step-by-step instructions on what buttons to click. And I'll just quickly move through those now so you can see they're all arrowed and numbered here. And again, we're pretty much at the end of our time together. And what I'll do is pause here and see what questions have been dropped in the chat. And as we close out, I'll just offer that if anyone wants to stick around at the end, if you have any questions that you want to ask that are particular to your work, me and Louisa are happy to stay on for a couple extra minutes. But just flagging here, we have a few recorded workshops for additional support in submitting your application. Some of them are just, visual art grant applications, some steps to success, a general demystifying the grant panel process that goes into depth about the jury panel process, and then some support about mandatory documents. Here are the deadlines for Art Bank. We have a couple other grant lines that are open right now in the Public Art Department. One is called the Public Art Building Communities Grant, which is probably our largest lift of a grant line. It's for folks who are interested in creating large public art commissioned projects. And then the other grant line that I manage is called the Art Exhibition Curatorial Grant Line, and it's for independent curators who are interested in curating exhibitions in our I Street Gallery space in Navy Yard. If you are an independent curator who's based in DC, you can apply for up to $35,000 worth of funding if you apply with a co-curator to be able to curate our space. We have 2 open slots for 2026, a social justice themed exhibition in the winter time, in January to early March, and then a open thematic exhibition in the springtime, which would be April to late May. I'm going to have this slide up on the screen, which has my contact info, Ron's contact info, and then Louisa dropped her email in the chat a while ago. Maybe you can re-up it for folks, and maybe your DC phone number as well. I'm going to open up the chat now and see if there are some questions that I can answer here.
Question?
I have my hand raised if
Yeah. Hi, Dina. Do you wanna ask your question, and then Roderick, I'll.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have
Questions?
a hand
All good.
on my screen. Sorry about that.
All good.
my name is Dinah,
Hi,
and
Diane.
I followed the link for the Clean Hand certificate. It brings me to my DC tax that I live in Maryland. Is that the way to fill it out for Maryland, or is there something different that I have to do that I'm just not understanding?
Sorry, got a little lost in my screens here, but what I can do, I'm going to drop a file in the chat. If my computer will let me. There we go. That goes in depth into the process for acquiring clean hands as a Maryland or DC resident.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. I'm also going to drop in the chat the one for DC residents. Roderick, can I answer your question?
Yes, I got into the meeting a little late.
No problem.
I mixed up the time. The question I have is concerning proof of resident. Now, what exactly documents do you need to do that?
So we ask that you submit a copy of your government issued ID. So that could be a driver's license,
Okay.
just the front of it. Or if you don't have a government issued ID, you can submit the address page of your most recent tax return.
Okay. And then one more question. The other question is the time period for pieces, because the way my work is, I document the history of DC.
Yes.
So I have a
Very
lot
well.
of thank you, a lot of historical pieces. And I feel that if anyone should have them, y'all should have them. Because sometimes when I'm looking through my work, I see pieces I haven't exhibited in a while, but they're very, 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 strong pieces. So could I include those?
Yes. So the work has to be from the last 10 years or represent a historical acquisition for CAH. So if you are suggesting that you are submitting works that come from a particular moment in time where DC looked a very particular way, and you want to submit those landscapes, just specify in your statement that that's what you're doing. But
Okay.
yeah, we'd happily review those.
Okay, because the pieces is more of a person that has that's very instrumental in what they call like the street musicians. Yeah.
Yeah, that absolutely counts. So historical figures, DC
Right.
icons, all of those are
Okay.
very, yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me for
Yeah, no problem.
cutting in the middle of the line. Like I said, I don't have a hand, so I don't know how to go
All as
about
well.
it. Okay.
Dinah, do you have your follow-up question?
Oh, I'm sorry, I just didn't put my hand out, and I wasn't trying to say that you were butting in front of me. I just didn't see that there were any questions in the chat, and I was just letting you know I had my hand up. So I'm putting it down now.
Yeah. This has been our largest group to date for any of our workshops. So lots of questions and lots of traffic. So appreciate you all managing. Okay, I'm going back into the chat and seeing if there's any additional questions I can answer. Are there ideal specifications for images, such as DPI and dimensions? Louisa responded, the highest image quality possible is best, at least 300 DPI. In terms of dimensions, that is totally up to you as an artist, how large you would like to create your works. The question about, do the jurors not see artist statements? The jury committee does see your artist statement. The only things that they don't see are your mandatory compliance documents that have your personal data associated with them. I see a question in the chat from David Alexander. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, yes.
Hi, David.
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. So this goes back to the questions about the clean hand certificate. I mean, I'm familiar with the process because, I mean, my wife has a rental there in DC, but we live in Virginia. But the clean hand certificate is registered under her name. But we filed taxes together. And
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
registration type, do you expect to pay DC taxes for yourself? I mean, I'm assuming yes. And then
yeah, so go ahead. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Then the validation method is, I guess I have to provide information related to I mean, I guess I had that question first, but the PDF is a little different than the actual application that I was looking at.
So to answer your first question about filing jointly and submitting your partner's clean hands. You'll want to submit a clean hand certificate that has your name associated with it and your place of residence. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in the clean hands process, so I can't answer all of the nuts and bolts of applying and receiving a clean hands certificate in this case, but there is a support line from the Office of Tax and Revenue and an email support structure, and they will answer your questions thoroughly.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I can do that. All right, thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, another question. I use my maiden name for my art practice. My legal last name is different. How do I make this clear in the application? So so Louisa responded, on the application, there's a place to put your artist name, which is how you'd like to be identified as an artist, which can be different from your legal name. Let's see. Aziza, I'm seeing a question from you about clean hands in the chat. You want to unmute yourself?
Yes.
It's good to see
It's good to see you. BADC has filed for clean hands, and because they will not give it to us because we don't have a building. And we're just trying to figure out, well, how do we deal with that? They keep sending us stuff about I guess like real estate taxes, things that we have to fill out, but we don't. That we're kind of nomads.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to do. We have everything but that for one of the grants. We're just been.
It's an unfortunately very important piece of the CAH puzzle, as you know.
They keep giving us reams of things about buildings and about real estate and all of that kind of stuff, and we don't have it.
And you've been working specifically with the Office of Tax and Revenue, like going back and forth with
yes,
them?
our treasurer has been working with that.
Let me see who I can talk to internally at CAH, just to have a conversation about it. And have you asked if there's any way of like entering into some type of plan with OTR to receive a provisional?
There's no plan because we just simply don't have a building.
Have a building.
And so they're asking about taxes related to real estate and having buildings. We can't answer the questions because it's not there.
Yeah. Okay, I'll ask internally and see if I can get any answers to you.
I appreciate that.
Of course, I would love for BADC to apply.
Oh, we'd love to. We've been working so hard for so many years, and it would be nice to have that little boost.
I know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I do not see any more questions in the chat. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to officially end our time together, and I'll stop recording and stick around for a couple extra few minutes and see if anyone has any additional questions. Again, this recording will be available on YouTube and on our Art Bank landing page for you to review. I'll also send it to you by email in the coming hours. I want to thank you all for sticking around. I see that there's about a third of the folks who started with us are still here. But thank you so much for your listening ears and for applying to Art Bank. We are doing what we're doing because you're doing what you're doing as artists and as connectors of the city. So thank you so much for your art. And again, applications close May 19th at 9 p.m. And feel free to email me or call me if you have any additional questions. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Okay, y'all too, and thank you for y'all support.
Thank you.
Okay, thank everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.